This episode is proudly brought to you by Optimum Financial Services Group. Optimum has the expertise to guide you through investment, tax, retirement, and estate planning, with a tailored solution to your individual needs. Our objective is to provide you with an optimum solution to protect your wealth. Optimum has expertise in medical aid, legal services, asset finance, and short-term insurance, as well as specialized services in commercial, marine, aviation, and personal liability. Don't choose the average, choose Optimum. Optimum Financial Services Group is an authorized financial services provider. Good afternoon, welcome to the show. I'm very excited to be back on the air after the pause of last week. Today's guest, AJ Venter, former Springbok utility forward flank and big-time Sharks man too. More than a decade in professional rugby. Today's conversation is going to be about rugby. It's going to be about performance. It's going to be about podcasting. It's going to be about side gigs, talking, mentoring, and everything in between. I'm really excited to chat with AJ. And it is also AJ's birthday. So happy birthday to AJ. Please stay with me. Send your questions. Maybe you want to send a birthday wish. Maybe you can chat at any time. Send a text and we will bring out the best questions. Please stay with me. My name's Alex McPhail. This is High Performance Teams. AJ, happy birthday to you and welcome. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, it's normally on your birthday you're supposed to do very little, right? I have had a jam-packed day with business, so I mean, then again, that's probably a good present, right? Because now it's so tough to do business these days. So that was lekker. So I'm actually good friends with Lawrence and Werner from Optimum.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Did you play rugby with Werner?
I know Lawrence from when, man, he must have been 25 or 26 years old when he was still in Bloem. And Werner, I think Werner was actually working for him then already. When he was still playing for the Cheetahs. I mean, we're going years ago now. And I've just stayed in contact with them over the years. And really, they got a bloody good business now. A very good business.
Nice setup. Yeah, I've walked a journey with them for a couple of weeks and it's coming into months now. And very, very pleased to have arranged some sort of formal relationship with them. So they've come on board with the show. I'm very, very excited about that, and hopefully we can do great things and maybe even build from here. So far so good. And I was actually going to ask you if you did you ever play with Werner?
Yeah, played. Well, we played together in 2000. No. Oh my goodness, is it around about the late 90s? I think in the Cheetahs for a few years. Do you remember there was a time when the Cheetahs and the Lions had to form a team? And
the Cats.
The Cheetahs. It's called the Cats. Yes.
Yeah.
So over those years we played together, and then in 1999, the Lions bought, I think 5 or 6 of the Cheetah players: Rassie, Werner, MJ Swanepoel, MJ Smith, and we all went to the Lions. But that year, Werner then played more Springboks than anything else, so I didn't really play a lot with them then. Okay. But then also through the years in the Springboks, we played a few games together. Werner always been the naughty scrum half. He's one of those cats, the naughty little buggers.
Isn't that the role of a scrum half actually? Is to be a little bit kind of cheeky, a bit kind of naughty, a bit in your face? Isn't that kind of what scrum halves are?
To cause cuck all the time. That's what they do wherever you go. No, but also, I mean, like I can think about the scrum masters that played with me, Craig Davidson, for example. Yeah, and I mean, I spent 10 years at the Sharks, and Craig Davidson was our scrum half then, and naughty as they come, but it's always those guys that are the gel and the glue of the team. I've always find that those naughty guys are the guys that keep the fun going, keep the team camaraderie going. So. I don't mind a few naughty oaks. I'm normally with them.
That's cool. So do you think it's the naughtiness? Do you think it's the fun? Do you think it's the unpredictability? What is it that makes them the glue?
It's a good question. I really think it just comes to the personality of it. I mean, if you, I suppose, if you're the shorter guy or the smaller guy in a team, you got to fight for survival, right? You've got to scratch to stay alive, and that makes those guys, gives them character, it gives them personality, and I don't know, it's maybe just survival instincts that make them the best for doing that job.
Yeah,
I don't know. Craig Davison was just unbelievable. Craig, he's one of those guys that would gel with the big oaks, small oaks, black oaks, Indian oaks, white oaks. It doesn't matter. He was just an amazing gel in our team. I'll never forget it. So grateful for him for the role that he fulfilled in our team.
Okay, that's nice. Well, we're in the meat already. We're in the weeds of this already, and I like it. As we spoke a little bit off air, we're not going to keep it too structured today. We'll keep it a bit kind of loose, and we'll bring in some current affairs too. But before we dig too deep, maybe we can just backpedal a little bit, and I like to find out about the adolescent years. There's sometime around 12 onwards where you get exposed to something that you think it could be. In your case, rugby. So what was it around your sort of formative years that kind of set you apart or made you think that this is a possibility or made you go for it? Because having a bit of ability or having a thought, they can't run by themselves. They kind of have to go together. You have to have a bit of ability. You have to be in the right time, right place. But you also have to put in the hard yards to go for it. So what was it in those formative years for you?
You've basically touched on most of it right there. So I mean, I actually, and we'll get into this a little bit later, where we'll talk about what happened with me post my professional career, where I went into a little bit of a difficult time, had a nervous breakdown. But in part of I actually do talks at businesses now about stress, anxiety, and how do you manage those things. And I talk from a place of where I've experienced that. So. And one of the things I speak about in my talk is I was always the taller guy in my age group. I was always kind of fast enough for a big guy. I was blessed with natural ability to kick a ball, pass left, pass right, and I was very, very fortunate to being brought up in a family where we weren't wealthy, but if you were born in the 70s when I was born and you were white, you were very, very fortunate. You were born into fortune, my dad and them had enough money to buy me a rugby ball, and so all of these things kind of was easy. It wasn't difficult, So I had this natural ability to play sport given to me by whatever you believe in. And before I knew it, I started playing this game. But the game that I was playing was something that I liked doing. It was fun that I was doing on the farm. So it was never hard work. It was never stressful. And as life went on, I just realized that I just started playing for first teams. Of course, there are moments when it's hard to train, but come on, I mean, how difficult is training really? So my talk always goes to only in my later life did I realize how fortunate I was in this career that was opening in front of me, and I didn't really had to work too hard at it. Again, other people will say, look at me and say, you're talking rubbish. We never want to be in a scrum with other guys that weigh 120 kilograms. We'll rather jump into the sea. For me, and I would imagine for most rugby players, it's not that difficult. It's you grow into this thing if you are big enough, strong enough, if you are lucky enough to be dealt this hand. It's not a tough thing. So I always say to guys that are playing rugby, and every now and then I talk to current players as well. And I know when you're in that situation, when you play, you think you're a bit of a big deal, right? and you feel that you've worked very hard to get here. And when you eventually one day get out of that truck and you got to start doing a business, then the tough life starts. So it's a long-winded answer, but that basically for me, there wasn't one particular moment. I just started doing this thing that I really dig to do, and that I was lucky enough to have the attributes to do. And the next thing, I was playing for the Springboks. Of course, there was a lot in between, but
Sure.
that's my experience.
Okay, well, so now you've unpacked a few things that I'm going to zoom in on quickly. Firstly, it makes you think back to a time when I was on this farm in the Western Cape, and so the farm life is what I'm getting to here. If you're a sort of a tough person and you grew up in the farm, or you spent a lot of time going to farms and the family farms, or even a neighbor that you spend a lot of time with, I can remember quite clearly the son of the neighboring farm coming to visit us and dropping off a bag of melons. But I mean, this 14-year-old kid would have this bag of melons, and he just with one hand handed over this bag of melons. It must have weighed close to 40 kilograms, and I grabbed this thing with two hands, being an adult already in my 20s, and I'm just amazed by this farm life, growing them tough. I mean, do you want to speak to that at all? This growing tough on the farm, and what is it to play on the farm and play rugby on the farm and do tough farm stuff, making you strong physically?
Sure. And I've never thought about this until a while ago when I was driving in the car with my girlfriend, and we were talking about, we've been going out for a short time now, and we've been obviously talking about our past and so forth. And she was asking me about the farm, and I was saying, in fact, we were driving in the Berg, and we saw these lucerne bales on the side. And I said to her, "Geez, that reminds me, my dad, whenever I used to come back from school on holidays, weekends, my dad would say to me, right, off you go, take the bucky, you and a few guys, and go load those bales." And we would load, I mean, thousands of these things over the weekend or over the holiday. And I'm looking back now, and I'm thinking, without even me knowing or my dad realizing, those kind of things built the physical strength inside of me. Because remember those days, Alex, there were no gym.
No.
Gym was far and few between. I only started really gymming, I almost say like 3 or 4 years into my professional career. Those initial years, it wasn't a big thing. So again, I'm very fortunate to have had that experience on the farm with a father that doesn't take no shit. He just said to me, "Off you go, boy. By evening, those things must be done," and you go. Yeah. So, I love the farm. And again, I count myself very, very fortunate to have had that life and that experience. I'm sorry, I think that's my phone going mad. I apologize. It's the people phoning for my birthday.
Yeah, no problem. You're excused. Well, yeah, that's it. So that really is the point, is that you kind of have this advantage growing up tough. I mean, you're physically stronger than the next guy who wasn't lifting. I mean, it's deadlifts, it's clean and jerks, it's squats, it's everything. And you get the bonus, you get to drive the bucky. You're probably underage, but that's just what you do. You drive tractors and buckies when you're a 12-year-old on the farm. But that's a real wholesome, healthy, good way to build a strong frame for going forward in a professional sport.
For sure. Where did you grow up? What farm?
No, I didn't grow up on a farm. It was a visit to a farm where I noticed the neighbor's son coming. I have nothing to do with farms at all, but I was visiting this farm and the neighbor's kid came over. But this was in the West Coast, Piketberg area. But no. I just.
So where did you grow? Where did you grow?
I grew up in Cape Town.
Did you grow up in that area?
No, I grew up in Cape Town.
Did you grow up in the West Coast area?
In Fishhook, in Cape Town.
Okay, lekker. And how did you start flying? How did the flying thing come in?
Oh, now we're turning the tables here. I'll give it to you because it's your birthday today. So when in the high school, the formative years, when you get to that point where you start figuring out what's appealing and what's not, it was something I was interested in. I went and I applied to the Air Force, and again, I was also having a privileged background, going to a decent school. The down the road school was a good school, and the marks were good enough, and I was in the right time to get selected for pilot's course, and I joined the Air Force. So I was trained in the Air Force, and I spent 10 years there as well. And that was the contract: 2 years of training, and you work back the 8 years, and I finished that. And so now it's been 21 years of flying, and we're in a different place now. We'll come back to some more flying questions because I know you have specific flying questions, but it looks like you want to ask one more question on that.
No, it's not talk shit. I wanted to ask you, what did you fly? Which army base, and what did you fly?
So I was, so that's a common thing, is the army jets. Most armies don't have jets. It's the Air Force that has the jets, but it is a common saying. I was in the Air Force for 10 years. I was based in Waterkloof in Pretoria. I was based in Langebaan in the West Coast, and I was based in Eysterplaat in Cape Town in the city. So I flew transport. I flew as a flying instructor, and I flew in the Silver Falcons, the display team over here. That's us there in the Durban coastline. And yeah, that was great fun. Again, very fortunate to have that opportunity. And when opportunities present themselves, you must reach up and go for them and dig deep to deliver.
But now that for me is interesting because that's not a Harvard. I can't see really.
That's a Pilatus Astra. That's a Swiss trainer. It's a turbo propeller. Right. It's 750 horsepower. Yeah.
I've heard, again, I'm really interested. I used to fly a microlight. That's the closest thing I came to flying. I had a microlight that I flew for 2-3 years, a year from Durban when I was still playing, and obviously done just YouTube videos on flying. And I just picked up that to fly, what do you call that, flying formation? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's formation.
Acrobat. Yeah?
It's formation aerobatics in the team, yeah.
That is a big team thing, right? You have to have a lot of discipline, good leader, although it's only 4, but that's, life and death. If someone make a mistake in the team, you could die.
Sure, yeah. So as you can see in this picture here, it's hard to know which way to move here. So this was a 4 aircraft formation. We did go up to a 5 aircraft formation later on the next year. And this was also the last year that they were red and white. They eventually got their own color scheme, and they were painted blue with a nice silver falcon, or painted stylized silver falcon. So those aircraft are flying. The closest point is this wingtip you can see of the leader, and the nose of the next aircraft. That propeller is spinning about 2.5 meters, 3 meters apart from the wingtip.
No, you're joking.
Yeah, so that distance there between the propeller and this wingtip, that's about 2.5 meters, 3 meters. And
so what is the key thing then? Is it a lot of training? Is it what makes that? Because that I didn't know it's that close, to be honest. I thought it's a bit further than that. That's for me, like, I'll rather be in a scrum with 30 guys than do that, for example. So what makes that a success?
Okay, yeah. Well, firstly, I'd rather be in the airplane than in the scrum. So I'm glad we can respect each other's roles. All right. So yes, it's training, but also, when you see that over there, that is after, firstly, there's a baseline level of training that you need to be eligible to try out for the team. But once you've tried out for the team and you found good enough, then there's a level of training that you go through. To give you an idea, it's a little bit less structured and rigid in South Africa. But, these formation aerobatic teams in the militaries all around the world, they generally have a training program which lasts anywhere from 3 to 6 months to be ready for the next year's airshow circuit. However, those teams are normally full-time aerobatic teams. They might up to 9 aircraft, jet aircraft, and so the point is it's somewhere between 3 and 6 months of training, and the training is much like a performance on stage. It's a rehearsed event. So what you see here is something that's happened over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it's drilled into you. And you start off a little bit further, and you work your way a bit closer, and you work your way a bit closer, and eventually you get to the point. And similarly, when you start the display, it's a vertical, it's looping and rolling, etc. The base height above the ground starts off here, then you step it down, then you step it down, then you're eventually at the airshow display height, and that height above the bottom of the loop will be 200 feet. And the show will be somewhere between 200 kilometers an hour, 600 kilometers an hour, and at some point up to 5G, going through some of the vertical maneuvers. So it's quite a wide range of movements. And at least having done a bit of microlight flying, you'll understand a little bit of the aerodynamics and the characteristics of flight. So yeah, it's training.
So this is interesting. In December, I was in St. Francis, and I don't know if you know Jason Ribbing, who's for years and years was one of South Africa's best big wave surfing legends. I mean, he's a legend. So, these guys surf. And I don't want to now lie, so people can correct me, but I think it's 40-foot waves now. Now, 40-foot wave. In fact, I'm lying. Maybe even more. I think maybe even more.
Big waves.
This is like two-story building. So if someone listening to this, you think how big is 40-foot? That's 2 stories or more height of water, but then the thickness from the front of the wave to the back is more than that. So if you fall here, then all that water, not only the height, but all that water comes over you. And that's why these guys, it's so dangerous. They get held down, 20 foot or 10 foot down the water. And because there's a lot of movement of water, it's like a foam. Yeah. So it's thinner than water. So you just drop deeper. So, with modern technology now, they've got these life jackets that they pull and they inflate immediately, and it helps him to float. And I was saying to Jason exactly the same thing. I said, Bud, how do you guys, when you paddle out at Jaws or you paddle out any of these big wave events across the world, what do you feel? He says, now, of course we're nervous. I say, same as you, but you must remember, exactly like you explained now, we started when I was 10 years old on a 1 meter wave. And I progressed. And by the time I was 18, I was surfing 10, 15 foot waves. And as I got better, it became normal. It became easier, right? And so whether it's rugby, whether it is flying, whether it is business, it's exactly, because I'm going through that in business, obviously post my retirement. There's certain things, I stepped off rugby from here, and I stepped into business here as an appy, and now I've got to learn. And it was like surfing a wave of a meter when you're 10 years old again. And so I suppose what we're talking about is just life. It's never easy. Life is always challenging. Doesn't matter whether it's that 1 meter wave or it's the 40-foot wave. It's still a challenge. You just get better.
You get better, yeah. You get more comfortable with what you're exposed to as well. Well, some of the questions coming through, let me just hit them right away. Fran's asking, AJ, you look like such a relaxed, happy-go-lucky guy. Do you know what your official, these various types of personality type, do you know what your personality type is, and how has this affected and influenced your business life?
I don't. I've actually done I forgot the name again. I've done it. It's not a personality test. It's a test where my girlfriend and I did it a month and a half ago, where it tests your subconscious reaction on anything that happens in your life, anything challenging. The name will come to me now. I apologize.
You say your subconscious reaction.
So we've got conscious and subconscious reactions to anything. This particular, call it a test, you do it online, gives you a value of 1 to 9, and each value then gets broken down. It's quite complicated. You need to see someone that understands it. It then gets broken down in many different aspects. Basically, what it does is it's let's for example say I'm a 9. And the person that's with you, your partner, is a 1. You can do it in business as well. If I understand what that person's subconscious reaction is going to be, if he or she is under threat, I know how to treat that person, and vice versa. So we've done this thing. I apologize. It'll come to me now. It was so interesting, man, and it was spot on for me. Like, there's certain things that I do when the pressure is on. That is not. I don't plan it. It is just my subconscious reaction that's been built in me over many years of life, right? And so we've all got this thing, and it was so interesting. So, and that actually, the question was, how is it working for business? I've taken that and I've kind of unpacked it for myself, and it gives me that acknowledgement. It gives me a trigger. Once the pressure's on, after like a minute, I see, okay, I've just reacted according to that subconscious, and she said to me, if that happens, do this. Okay. So I'm so into, there's one thing about, I think men in general, but I think a lot of South African men, because I'm a South African man, I'm a Afrikaans man. You've got to be hard, you've got to be in control, you've got to be tough. You're the breadwinner. You've got to look after your family, and life is hard, right? We've all got at some time in your life, we've all got stresses and troubles. It could be death in the family, it could be financial trouble, it could be relationship trouble. But I think as South Africans, we tend to think speaking to someone when life is tough, there's a bit of a stigma to it. It's this guy's crazy, or he's weak, or he's not in control. Where I've lately, and too late in my life, I've realized that we all go through trouble sometime in your life, and often dealing with just normal stress by yourself is not necessarily the right thing. There are so many people out there you can just sit and talk to, and you will be surprised how it put just stuff in our mind at ease. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but it is so important for me. It's something I talk about in all my podcasts. And especially now, Alex, I mean, life is tough, right? Life is hard. There's so many people. What I went through 5 years ago, when I touched briefly before, I had a nervous breakdown. And my nervous breakdown was not because I've got an imbalance, chemical imbalance. I lost a lot of money in business. I had 2 divorces and 1 or 2 other things. And all of that kind of had like a spiral pressure on me. And that's life. Life is hard. It's how we deal with those things, and what do you do? Who do you talk to? Changing the norm of the day to adapt to these stresses. And right now, a lot of people are going through what I went through a few years ago, and hence my talks to businesses right now, because I feel, I can share so much knowledge and give so much assistance. Because again, people go through stuff. It's not because they're mentally unstable or they are crazy. It's just life. Life is hard. It pushes hard on you. So
I like what you said there. Going back to your thing, so for those listening and for me as well, we're going to get to the reference to this analysis you did of yourself, your girlfriend, and yourself, because I think that's a valuable tool. Because you can recognize, and then also the loop to get you out. When you recognize, then to say, well, take this track, because you've been down these tracks for 45 years. They're not working for you. Try this track and just see what happens. And okay, so we're going to maybe flip this thing on.
But that normally, Alex, unfortunately, that only happens when you hit rock bottom, unfortunately. Yet, this is part of my talk, there are ways, if you find that you're not really happy with the way things are going, you can change it. But if you feel comfortable, why would you change? You just keep on going in that route. For me, I had to hit rock bottom to wake me up and say, oh my God, I need to make a change. I need to do things different than normal.
Okay, so tell me what does rock bottom feel like, AJ?
Yes, for me, I'll tell you what happened for me, and it's different for everyone, right? And it's also everyone's problems are different. For me, it was I lost a lot of money in business. A lot of my savings that I've saved through rugby, I lost in 2 or 3 business deals. I've been divorced twice, so basically failed relationships. I started doubting my ability as a boyfriend or a husband, and 1 or 2 other things, and that over a period of 2 years, it kind of started weighing heavily on me, and you know what the biggest thing is? Doubt. I started doubting my own abilities. And it was unfounded, but because I made 1 or 2 mistakes in business, and because I made 1 or 2 mistakes in relationships, your mind starts lying to you. Your mind starts doubting yourself, and doubt is the worst thing in the world. I started doubting my ability to make money in business, and it eventually became so bad that it affected me physically. At the time, I played rugby at 116, 17 kilograms. And I was weighing 99 at the time. So, and then again, stress. They always say that stress can make you sick if you let it go. It can literally affect your body so bad you can get cancer, you can get skin, ulcers, many things. And what happened with me is this one particular Friday, like I said, over 2 years, and then there's 1 week it was bad, and then that Friday, I woke up that morning and I just realized something is not lucky with me. I thought the only way I can explain it is like you had too much to drink and you got a bit of hungover. So I thought maybe I'm getting the flu, and it just got worse and worse and worse that Friday. And by 3 o'clock, I could barely walk, and my walls of my apartment was coming in. So it was affecting me physically. And I at 4 o'clock that afternoon, I thought, no, man, there's something wrong here. And I phoned my doctor, and I said to my doc, listen, this is what I'm feeling. I don't know what to do. So I said, listen, from what you're telling me, it sounds like you're having a nervous breakdown or some anxiety attack. Get to the doctor. So I jumped in the car, slowly drove to the pharmacy and just bought the pills that he phoned in for. Now, I don't like to take medicine. I've never liked it. And I don't, there's no judgment for anyone that does. Each to their own. For me personally, I just never wanted to take medicine and be subject to that. And I woke up and I took it the Friday, best sleep I've had in 2 years. Saturday, amazing day. Saturday night, great sleep. And I woke up at Sunday morning and I thought to myself, do you even know what you take? And I didn't. And I took the tablets and I quickly Googled it, and it was antidepressants. And so that was a red bell, like a bell for me. And I went, oh, no, hang on, you can't, I don't like this. So I didn't take it that Sunday morning. I've still got those pills in my bed. I keep it here for an example, to remind me. And I then just sat down and I thought I need help, and I started phoning around, and eventually got a guy by the name of Alan Kleinhans, who was the Sharks motivational guy years back. And I just kept in touch with him through the years. He is now one of the guys that, I don't know if you know Tony Robbins, very famous life coach.
Yeah.
So he works for Tony Robbins, or with Tony Robbins in the UK. And I mean, of course, I can't afford Alan, but Alan gave me a few sessions on Skype for free over the next 2-3 weeks. And I mean, I'm not going to go into detail. That's a very long story what I changed and everything. But Alan literally changed my mindset and made me realize that everything that I'm going through is not real. Of course, there's trouble. But this thing I've built in my mind, this doubt, this massive dark cloud, I created it. I've built that thing in my mind. And through many changes in my life, I managed to, but I would say 7 to 9 months later, man, my life changed. I've changed my mindset. I've changed many things, many day-to-day things I do in my life. And I tell you what, I'm the happiest man alive.
Well, that's a good story. And I thank you for going into all the detail as well. So a couple of things I want to touch on there, and we can bounce in and out a little bit too, but going to Alan as a motivational. So was he full-time employed by the Sharks as well, or as a role, or was he someone that came in from time to time, once a year, once a quarter, he just gave a quick talk?
That year he was actually, I'm not sure where he was with us the whole year. He was with us the whole year, but so, I don't know what the actual employment structure was.
So you felt he was part of the team. And the message that he kind of shared with you guys, that would be, he would come in and he would give you some sort of 20 to 40 minute talk and a bit of Q&A type of thing. I want to just bring that into where you're sharing his business now too. I also do a bit of motivational speaking at businesses as well. So how is that relationship that you as a player, a professional sportsman, listening to a motivational talker at the time, given you enough confidence to then reach out to him one day, 10 years later, and then also then to take that same message once again and almost go full circle and give it out to people that want to hear your message at business?
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but thank you, for reminding me. So I actually can't remember the year and what Alan parted in terms of knowledge. I just remembered liking this guy, responding to his messages. I do remember, I don't know if you know a guy called Henning Gericke, who was he was also with the Sharks for quite a long time as a mental coach. Actually went on to be with the Springboks for 2 or 3 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And the one thing with Henning that I remember clearly, and it's something that I talk about now as well, is authenticity and vulnerability. And I'll never forget how Henning would make us, the Sharks team, sit in a circle. So everyone look at each other. And for the hour or the hour and a half that we were there, he would give opportunity for people to speak and say what they want. Whatever that was. Now you must remember in a rugby team, when you're 30, you're an old guy, you're a senior, you're a hardebaard. I mean, you're a child, really, aren't you? But then if you're a 20-year-old, you sit around that circle. These are big men. It's hard to speak in front of them. And it was always so cool for me that in that circle, in that environment, I always felt unjudged and comfortable to say something and have a story and have a point, right? And I'll never forget that. It's something that I've learned, and even now taking. So for example, when I tell my story, when I meet someone now, if the opportunity arises, I always I start by telling my story if the time is right, and then the moment that happens, I'm vulnerable. Because I'm telling a story that's raw, that might blow up in my face. But the person that are listening then changes immediately. If you're vulnerable and if you are open in front of that person, a conversation changes immediately. And so it's very similar to when we sat around in a circle with the Sharks. When one guy open, the next guy open, and the next guy open. But if no one talks, everyone just keeps to themselves. And it comes back again to my story from before. If someone goes through hardship, or if your finances are bad, or if your relationship is bad because you've never spent so much time with your wife or your husband in a flat together, talk to someone. Go see someone. Don't just give up on anything. I spoke to someone yesterday on a podcast, and people are taking their lives, Alex, for things that they could fix. Just talk to someone, man. Just talk to someone. Don't be too hard. Sorry, we're going deep.
Well, it was always going to be deep. You run a podcast, I'm running a show too, and it's great that we can bounce off and reflect. So there are people asking more questions, just so we don't forget them. You guys, please bring them. AJ, you faced a lot of competition for the flanker position during your time. How do you stay the number one choice for that position? So technically back to your delivering in a high-performance team, the Springboks. I mean, it's quite a coveted role too. It seems to be like almost a prize position too. How do you stay the number one choice?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, listen. So, what makes you a good rugby player in general? You've got to have the attribute first. You've got to be as a flanker, depending which one. There's different attributes. So, as a 7 flank at the time, you need to be big, tick. You need to be fast enough to move that big body, tick. Can you pass left or right? Who's got the best extra skills apart from passing left or right, and then down to fitness. So these things are all almost like physical attributes. So you can train those things, you can become better. But something that I've realized a little bit late in my career is that leadership abilities help you a hell of a lot. So there's been many players that through my career that possibly wasn't the best player in his position, but he brought to the team a leadership ability to assist the captain or the coaches to make the big calls when he needs to on the rugby field, because it's short time. It's 80 minutes, minute by minute, calls need to be made. So I realized that a little bit late in my life. When I look back at my career, I always think, I don't want to change a lot, but if there's one or two things I change, is to focus a little bit more on becoming a better leader at a younger age in my career. But I mean, all those things together, Alex, for the oak who asked, I mean, you I suppose at that level, even in business, even in flying, at that level, there's such a small margin of error. You make too many mistakes Saturday. Next Saturday, there's another guy that's waiting in the line that's like beaming to get your posse. Yeah. So you need to train hard. You need to have your mental game at play. All of it really, and especially at that level.
And I think also it was Jason that asked. Thanks, Jason. And also, you're hungry for the position too. But as soon as you get the position, you become a marked man, and the guy behind you is maybe even hungrier than you. You've got the jersey on. He wants to get it off you, and it's almost like sustaining that position might even become harder than it was just to get into that position, because you yeah. So okay, yeah. but to carry on in our conversation regarding the leadership, and that is looking back in your career, looking back at any time in your life, there is something that stands out that I could have done this so much better. So now you went through this tough time, and what did you find that was the ability for you to get out of it and to get the confidence back? Because if it was all about a confidence and an attitude, You said 6 to 9 months you were feeling better. What kind of things do you do to build confidence? I always talk about if you want to get something done and you're not able to reach those goals, put the goal a bit lower. Get that bit of momentum. Get an easy win. That easy win builds momentum, and then go for another win. What did you do? What kind of stuff?
Are you talking specifically now after my nervous breakdown, or are you talking before that?
No. So to get yourself back on track.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you now, and I'm looking quickly at something on my phone because I've posted this morning. Okay. I said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And I love that. I saw this morning. I thought, my God, that is beautiful. Life can only be understood. So we look backwards, 2020 vision, right? It's easy. But we must live forward. So I often look back at my life, but I don't stay there too long. I always think, great, mistakes made, learn quickly, off you go. And part of my recovery and part of my healing after my nervous breakdown, I'll get a quick four points. One, there's an old saying that goes, you will become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is so powerful. We often hang around with people because they're fun people, or they're the cool people, or they're the successful people in the hood, or whatever it is. But that particular person isn't building me. It isn't building my character. In fact, they might be negative, or they might be racist, or whatever the fact might be. And that's one of the biggest things that I've realized when I started getting out of this. I realized that the people around you has got to be people almost better than you at everything. Okay, but so it's hard thing to say, but you got to find people that are better than you as a person, because you'll be better. They'll lift you. And I've made a lot of changes in my life, and I've over the time had to slowly started seeing some people less and less and less. I have to say right now, I am a very grateful man, because I've got power people around me. I've got 5 or 6 good friends that I'll take to war. These folks will back me and I'll back them. And that's amazing, even in these tough times. So that probably was one of the biggest things. And another thing for me that was very important is, Alex, we live in a world where there's so much data getting thrown at you every day. You wake up in the morning and you open this thing. You get up, make coffee, you switch your TV on, you watch news. You get in a car, your news is on the radio. And the data is non-stop, right? And it's most of the time rubbish, okay? But we are addicted to it. And there's another big change I've made is just after my retirement, I worked for a company called ABSA. And I've also worked for Old Mutual. In the investment environment, and because of that, I had to always be in the know of what's going on overseas, rand, dollar. What happens with the dollar affects the rand for the investors, and so the net result is I were watching news all the time. And I would get up in the morning, switch my TV on, and an hour later, made my food. I would have subconsciously listened to the most negative rubbish that's out there, because that's what sells news, is negative stuff. And so when I realized that, I stopped my DSTV. I just stopped my DSTV. I unfortunately stopped watching rugby as well, because it goes hand in hand. It was tough in the beginning, but now I just watch it on YouTube on replays. And so and also, social media is another story. I cleaned my social media. People say social media is a bad thing. No, it's not. It is what you follow and who you follow on social media. You can follow 1,000 handles or pages, and they could be all beautiful and upbuilding. It's what we choose to follow and who we choose to follow. So for 2 years, no, I'm lying. For about a year, I call it rinsing my social media. Every morning, I deleted 3 or 4 or 5 pages or people that don't service my lifestyle. Sure. That's not building me. So, I mean, there's many other things that I did, but those are just two of them. And these are all things we can do. It's all things we can do. Consciously deciding, all right, hang on, I do not want to open this. Because I say, Joe Rogan says this. He says you wake up in the morning and you've got 100 points of energy. 100 points. That's all you get.
Yeah.
When you go to bed tonight, you will never get that 100 points back. Never. And how you spend that 100 points, whether you're listening to rubbish or whether you talk rubbish to someone else, negative stuff, that's energy spent. It's gone. You'll never get it back. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. And it's a great way to visualize it too, because it's all about energy, really. I mean, you could allocate minutes in the day, time, but minutes at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is not the same at minutes at 7:30 in the morning when you're fired up.
Yes.
I enjoy you've mentioned some, so you've touched on the Joe Rogan. So I'm also I don't listen to everything because he gets into the weeds about fighting, and then sometimes I switch off. But he the style that I enjoy, and I know you try and do it too, is this free conversation and just have the opposite of a soundbite and get someone's opinion and get somewhere. So tell me about then your show, The Life with AJ Venter. Why did it start and how has the journey evolved? I see you got a beautiful Rode mic there. I'm still sitting with my old school equipment. I made a deal with myself, which I'll get to you shortly. But tell me about your journey with the Life with AJ Venter.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so my podcast is called Life with AJ Venter, and it actually started with the little bit of difficult time I went through, and I came out of it and I thought, where is a platform where I can share my story? One is doing talks at businesses. Two, and I was watching Joe Rogan and I thought, how much does it cost to do this thing? And we can't, like you said, we can't show it now, but for people that don't know, I've got my computer and it used to be on a tin can, like a cake tin can. Yours is very similar, I know. This is very fancy, but that's the only fancy thing here. So I've got my computer. You download one or two softwares, and off you go. This is not an expensive thing to do. This is the beauty about podcasting. You can have a voice, even if it's to two people, and it can cost you nothing. And who knows what happens with any podcast from here. But basically, it actually started with. Do you remember Joe Verniekerk, who played for the Lions and the Springboks in South Africa, and then he went to France. And about a year ago, there was a clip going around of Joe looking very pale, long beard, long dreadlocks, and the photo looked bad. And it was going the rounds, and I got this thing on a few WhatsApp groups, and the people were so rude, man. They were so rude. They were saying things like, look at this drug addict, look at him, he's horrible, he's broken. And I thought, listen, what is the real story here? And I phoned a friend of mine. I said, where's Joe? He says, no, Joe is doing well. He's in Costa Rica. He's running this lifestyle center. I said, okay, so there's nothing wrong. He says, no. I said, give me Joe's number. I phoned Joe. I said, listen, but I don't know if you know or not, but there's this photo going around of you. People are saying horrible stuff in my chats. Let's talk. Let's do this thing. He says, okay, no problem. Within a week, I just quickly set up a podcast. I gave it the name Life with AJ Venter. And that was my first podcast. And we had an amazing chat. It's where Jokey explains his whole story. And, it was the contrary. He's very happy. He's got this beautiful place in Costa Rica where people go to meditate and relax and do plant medicines. All good. All good. He's obviously lost a lot of weight because he became a vegan, just because of a lot of medicinal drugs that he took over the years. His tummy couldn't handle it anymore. So there's this stuff going around about Joe, and it's not even true. And so that was that was the start of it. And from there, I just started, there's no money in it. There's no business for me. It's just fun. It's a platform to share a message and talk to people like you and talk to people like Joe. And it's love. I enjoy it. It is a bit time consuming because I do mine different than yours. I'll actually look into this where it's live. Mine is I do it through Zoom. So I record it and then I edit it afterwards. Very little editing. I just put some logos at the end and then I post it on Facebook and YouTube. But that's time consuming.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And we've spoken a little bit off air as well. For me, I specifically choose live for two reasons. One, I want to give the listeners a chance to join the conversation too, because how often do you get to send a message to whoever it is that you're talking to that people want to know about? What does the Springbok rugby player have to say? And they can ask their own question and get an answer in real time. I like that. But secondly, the editing it's a lot of work. They say 1 hour of film is 10 hours of editing. So and you have to generate maybe 100 hours of film to edit 10 to get down to one. I don't have the time for that, and so basically this is like a fire and forget missile, point it, shoot, and kind of just see where it lands. Sometimes it lands well. I mean, 2 weeks ago I had bad sound because there was an update and I didn't correctly set everything up, and so we had to cut it short. So there's risks that come with it as well, but the main thing is the style. I like the style. It's live. It's out there. It's done. And also, we're talking about the current economy and the hard times out there. I'm in aviation. There's not much flying going on right now. Lots of sectors are hit badly. Tourism, hotels, travel, restaurants, anything that's got people. And another thing that goes with it is public speaking. People aren't gathering. So how do you go about getting your message out there? And that's where I started in lockdown.
But now, here's the $1 million question. I'm sure everyone wants to know. What do you guys know? When are we going to fly international again?
Well, I saw some sort of, I can't remember if it was news or some passing comment on a group saying that there's talk of the borders opening soon. I'm close to the government, but this is on some aviation forum I'm on.
Yeah.
My thoughts haven't really changed too much. It seems like the way it was looking originally, and there's no reason for me to change my thinking, is that towards the end of the year, they'll start relaxing things to get things back to where they were. A year ago's stats, that's 4 or 5 years away, for two reasons. One, people have been decimated. This is not just a little hiccup. This is not the fuel price went up. This is you may have had savings. If you're lucky enough to have 2 or 3 months savings, well, they're gone. Even if you have still got a job, there's a good chance you might be on a pay cut now. So to recover enough that you would then have surplus money to pay for a ticket on a flight that is now twice the price of what it was because of all other factors in an airline, in an industry that's crumbling, there's just too many factors compounding to make it the leisure travel. You and your family buy a ticket and fly to Europe. For that stuff to recover, we're 4 or 5 years away. But the borders opening, my sense is sort of towards the end of the year, things will start opening up a little bit. But again, it's not going to be, the market's not going to get flooded with requests, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Local
That's
travel.
Interesting, man. You're saying it's 5 years. Can you believe it? I mean, but again, I say when we talk, I had a podcast with one of the ITEC people in the week, and we were saying, of course, now it's tough. It's hard. People don't have money. I don't have money right now. But I really think that out of this thing, if you look post 2008, a lot of people came out of 2008 and they became very wealthy. Okay, the people that didn't have the tunnel vision because of the stress and were able to look at opportunities, because now there's so many changes in the way business has been done. I mean, I'm in the tech space with ITEC. There's so many changes in the tech space now and the way that business are being done. That there's going to be more opportunities out of this. There's going to be opportunities for new software, new companies. There's going to be new jobs because there's going to be new services.
Yes.
And I think it's hard. It is hard. It's tough. But I tell myself all the time now, okay, it's tough. Just don't have this. Just when there's an old saying, when you're nervous, your vision becomes like this. You don't see the opportunity. And I tell myself all the time, just it is tough. We know what it is. Yeah. But just make sure that your vision is open so that when there's opportunities, take them. Because they are going to be, we're going to look back in 5 years at someone that became a multi-millionaire or billionaire out of this thing. And they go, shit, we should have done that.
Should have done that. So how do you, AJ, what do you do to see when the market's knocking on your door? What does it look like to you? Have you taken any opportunity in the last 3 months that someone knocked on your door, and when the third person knocked, you said, hang on, there's something here? What have you done?
Not, honest truth, not yet. We are struggling at this moment to just basically get into our clients' offices because the curve is going up. So it's people are very stressed right now. What I'm doing right now, I'm very vocal on LinkedIn. I'm very vocal on social media platforms, so that when the time comes, when there's an opportunity, when the market might turn over, but when people are looking for me, they've seen our products, they've seen what we can do. I try to speak to people, my clients, on a daily basis, new clients. Don't sell. I mean, I'm in the sales game.
Yeah.
But right now is not necessarily the time to sell people stuff.
Sure.
Be there, be a service, talk to people. Just make sure that
They remember
when
your
the
name.
time comes and they need some tech that I've got, they must remember that AJ Fender is doing it, or Peter is doing it, or Alex is doing it.
Sure. Now, just to round off the discussion on the sort of travel, to end up, this international is not going to go anytime soon. People are not going to travel. And even when sort of the borders are completely relaxed and finances are still strained for us, people still want to get away some sense. So I think there'll be quite a big boost in local tourism compared to now. Not a boost compared to last year, but compared to the last few months. The local tourism will get a boost. It's caravanning, tenting, just holidays, B&Bs, and the typical holiday places at the typical holiday times in December and Easter and things will recover. And that's the message.
This is very interesting because I went to St. Francis with a group of people last year. I was very fortunate to go with them. Beautiful home there, and they're planning to go again. And they were phoning the guys around, and the people were saying, "You got to move," and because we were thinking, well, because St. Francis is going to be empty. And they said, no, because people can't go overseas now. That certain tier of person that goes overseas on December normally, he can't go anywhere. So he's going to St. Francis and those places. So again, they are. You would think they're going to struggle. No, they're putting their prices up.
Yeah, okay, well, so that's it. Rod's joining my father saying, forget Monte Carlo, come to Camps Bay. He's got a B&B in Camps Bay and it's newly opened just in time for COVID lockdown. But that's a good point. And, to also get onto this gig economy, this idea of don't sell people things now. I'm also very big on LinkedIn, and that's how we connected. If you just provide a consistent message, a consistent story, and you sell, positively slanted idea of your products and services. And this might come back to a question I wanted to ask you earlier as well. And it's something that bothered me for a while until I got to the bottom of it in my own space. You're a pro rugby player. You're a professional sportsman for a long time, and you've reached the top of the game. 10 years pro sports, representing the Springboks more than 20 times. You've established yourself. But there's that period of stepping off when you retire. And you're a rugby player for 2-3 years. Obviously, you've got a great network. You're a rugby player, but now you want to get into business. You said you've had some fail. At what point do you say, I'm AJ, I'm more than a rugby player? I know you've done some courses along the way and you didn't want to just be a rugby player. So how do you package that all together to say, I'm AJ and I can offer this? I'm not a rugby player. I'm not a former Springbok. I'm AJ. How did that thought kind of work for you? Is that something that you've consciously worked on? Did it click into gear easily the day you left rugby, or how have you put it together?
Very interesting. This is very interesting. So remember, there's two things here. There's my perception of me, and there's the people's perception of me. When I say me, any sportsman, any pilot, whatever.
Sure.
For even if you stop right now, people will still perceive you, or I will still perceive you as Alex the pilot. Right? You can stop flying right now. I would not see you differently until you prove to me later with constant meetings or offerings of some other business. Only then do I change my mind. So it is not. So in my last 2-3 years of rugby, I knew that, like exactly saying, I played rugby, but that's not me. I'm a businessman, and I want to be a businessman. The problem is that you step out of this professional sports arena, and you step into business where other people my age have been fighting for their position for 15 years, 18 years, and they see you as just the professional rugby player. Lucky to have a chat, lucky to chat with you, have a beer, chat a bit of ball, but when it's going to come to business, they need more. They need more convincing. They need to see, and that only comes with time. It doesn't happen quickly. So I always say when I speak to guys, professional sportsmen, rugby players, can't speak for other guys, it'll take you 2 to 3, even 4 years after retirement to start having a foot in business and having people trust you. That's the word, trust. How do they trust you? They're not going to trust you because you passed the ball to another Springbok a few times. That doesn't help when it comes to the bottom line of business, right?
Sure.
So that is a very tricky transformation from sport to business. It's not an easy one, and Stefan de Blanche and myself talk about it all the time. Stefan is the CEO of the Rugby Legends, and Stefan always say, yes, what can we do, I mean, of course, the guys are making much more money now than we did, but it's all relative. In 5 to 6 years from now, if he makes 6 million rand now, 10 million rand now, interest rate goes up, it's all relative. It'll
Let's see if we can connect up again.
I'm back.
You're back. I don't know if it was it me or you. I can never tell.
I'm not sure. Mine is full, but I don't know.
Okay, no problem. If anyone's watching now, Dad, anyone who's there, you can just type a message saying if you're on the same screen. If you're not, then then I'll call it a day here and just finish up the conversation. But there you are, back again. AJ, you were mid-sentence, and what we were talking about, this idea that you have 2 to 4 years to get back in. Okay, yeah. but you do get that opportunity. Once again, anyone can just type in that you're back in the chat, then I can see who's still listening. You do get that opportunity to open doors quickly. Hey, there's a Springbok. Hey, AJ wants to talk to me. Hey, whoever it is. And also, like now, this position you're in now, you can call up any contemporary, give or take 5 years up, 5 years down, that of a professional sport and in any kind of sport, particularly South African, but you can reach out easily for your podcast too, and that's a great skill. It's a benefit. It's wonderful. I don't know, but
for sure.
But you do come on the back foot, like you're not Joe Rogan, neither am I, and also in the boardroom you come in with 20 years of rugby and 2 years of business. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you build that trust? What do you do?
It's a difficult one. So again, like you say, with a podcast, there's no money in it. You need thousands and thousands of followers to make money out of it, right? When it comes to business, you literally need a few years to, like you say, as an ex-sportsman, it's easier to phone up someone that has been following sport. It's very easy. Not very easy, it's easier. But when that person has got to put money on the table, you need to know what you're talking about. Sure. Or you need to have a group of people around you that are really good at what they do and their offering. So it is a bit difficult, but you can do it. People can do it,
And what's the reception been like with your show?
The podcast?
The podcast, yeah.
Yeah, good. I mean, I don't. To be honest with you, Alex, I don't even know the numbers. It really is that kind of thing for me. To go and see what the numbers are, I don't have the time for that right now. So I should have done probably a little bit more over lockdown, but I also just was too busy with other things. I want to do a little bit more now coming up. I don't know if you've seen my last podcast. I had a guy, the co-founder of the Satanic Church.
I didn't watch it, but I saw that was on there, and I thought that's an interesting topic. How did that go? I haven't watched it yet.
Actually quite good, to be honest with you. I was very nervous because I mean he's a good guy, man. He's when you watch the podcast, you see. Whatever his belief is, that's fine. But he's not a bad guy. They don't want to kill people or drink blood. That's not what they are. But it was quite interesting, because it's a taboo, right? People are scared of this thing, and I mean, to be honest, me too. What is this thing? But I think the thing I learned from there is just to be open-minded, listen to someone else. Yeah. No one can just kill you or go to jail. Listen to their story and let it go. If you're not with it, let it go. And I got kind of a lot of, I wouldn't say hate mail, but a lot of people are going to me, why did you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, why not? Knowledge is power. Just listen to someone else, listen to their story. So yeah, that was an interesting one. This is just fun, man. I love it.
Have you got a regular show? Is it every week or is it kind of more loose?
No, just whenever I really like it. If I speak to someone or I see something in the news and I think, okay, that's interesting, then I just try and call that person up and see when you want to come on. And whenever they can, I do it. So there's really no set time frames in place at all.
Okay. And tell me, AJ, as a last wrap up with a couple of more specific high performance teams questions. If listeners want to send their question in, we can maybe try and sneak in one more there too. So you've been a professional sportsman, you've been a part of high performance teams, and now with ITEC, is it the new business development manager, a new business development director in charge of new business? I would imagine that is a high-performing unit too. You've got your set routines and structures. What have you carried over from the time in a professional sportsman performing team? Bearing in mind that there you've got coaches, you've got frontline coaches, you've got back coaches, you've got conditioning, you've got mental, you've got all that, and you might not have as many resources on the different roles. But what kind of characteristics or attributes have you brought over in creating this team that you're now working in from sport?
So a few things, but I would, if I can, single out maybe discipline. Discipline is the biggest thing. I mean, like you say in rugby, there's a lot of coaches around you. There's a lot of other leaders around you, but you still need to be disciplined. You need to train hard. You need to do your research, etc., etc. And that's one of the biggest things that I've realized in business. In business, like we've got a smaller team, and it just needs me to be more disciplined. Like the small stuff. Like right now, I don't have to go gym in the morning because I'm not a professional sportsman, but that gym in the morning keeps me going, keeps me physically fit. If my body is in shape, my mind will be in shape, and if my mind is in shape, the business will be good. So for me, it starts with in the morning with discipline. I get up in the morning, I either meditate or gym or both. Every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, spend some time doing. I'm not going to go through my whole day, but anyway, I've got my day planned out, and I actually did this a few weeks ago, and I thought, I do this, but let me actually put it down on paper. Let me, and I literally went and on my calendar started from 5 o'clock in the morning. I went a bit silly. I said, okay, 15-minute shower, breakfast, this, and what I realized is that my time is much more valuable than I ever thought. When I actually put it down on my calendar, I realized how the time, I went from 5 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and I saw it, and I realized, AJ, your time is much more valuable than you think. And I would advise people to do this if they haven't done this. Go and take a week in advance, your studies, whatever you want to do, and put it down on paper. It was an incredible experience. But come back to the question, discipline for me is one of the biggest things that I took from rugby, and use it in business.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to plant any seed, but that is the one I would have planted, and thank you for answering my suspicion. But I also did a similar thing on the calendar recently as well. I didn't put in showers and things, but I put in all the little detail of the minutes I want to add. Oh, hello. And
hello, puppy.
Very nice. And I just wanted to have it a bit more documented, regimented, to just see where you're not wasting minutes, etc. But last question from the listeners. My father-in-law, Jock, he's saying one thing. He's a rugby fan, big fan. One thing from you, AJ. Will we stay on top of the rugby ladder when we get back on the field?
Hello,
I presume
Jock.
this is Springboks.
How's it going? This is my girlfriend. This is my girlfriend, Danny. We're live.
Hello, Danny. Welcome.
I mean, that's an interesting question because, I mean, let's think about this for a second. All Blacks and the New Zealanders have been playing about 2 months now, is it? Yeah. I think. How do we ever come out of this and compete with them at level footing? It's almost impossible. I mean, they went into the world's best. We are, but I mean, they're top of the top. So I don't know, man. It's a very tough thing. I do think that we're going to take a big pounding. And again, like I said to you before, I don't really watch a lot of rugby anymore, but I did see something popping over my news feed that South Africa might be playing in the Northern Hemisphere in some tournament. I don't know if you know about it.
Not familiar.
Yeah, so, we're like two pilots talking. We know nothing about rugby.
Are you still flying, AJ?
Hey?
Are you still flying?
No. Listen, I sold my microlight probably, 7 years ago. I'll tell you why. You'll appreciate this because we were flying where the Durban International Airport is now. Mm-hmm. There was an old military landing strip that was half built. Okay. So before they built this airport, we were flying off there, and then we had a little hangar there, and we were trained like from 8:30 till 5 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and outflying mornings and evenings. So I'd wake up early in the morning, fly, and then I'm late for training, and I don't do my post flights, and I park my Airy, go to training, and then I'll come back, and because it's already almost dark, I won't do my proper pre-flight, and I'll just jump in and fly again. And in that time, a few oaks crashed into the sea, and they didn't die, but they had bad injuries. And I realized that they're probably doing what I'm doing. That's human error. That's not a plane error. I'm going to fall out of the sky because of my negligence. And I thought, no, bugger that. And I sold the plane. But I loved it. I absolutely love flying.
Well, we'll have to organize a flight together sometime again too. That'll be a fun way to meet up in person. Yes. Thanks, AJ. My last question for you before we sign off. What are your top tips for creating a high-performance team? Could be one tip.
Yeah. So look, I already touched on discipline, but if I think of our work environment right now, I would say, and it's maybe not to be a top team, but I would say right now people need to be cognizant about other people's state of mind. You need to be aware of what's going on in that person's life, because remember, we arrive at work, but there's another life behind this person, other side of that car when he stops at work. So be cognizant that everyone is going through trouble, not only myself. Maybe it's not the right answer for your question, but I'd like to end off with that. People must just be aware that everyone's going through tough times right now, and just be cognizant of that.
Yeah, that goes back to your message earlier that knowledge is key, knowledge is power. Well, AJ, thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting with you. I feel like we could chat for ages. We could talk flying and a little bit of rugby and flying and teams and podcasting and all sorts. Have a very happy birthday. Thanks for making time available on your birthday too, and it was great to catch up.
Thanks, Alex. It was very lucky to be here, man. We'll and I want to fly with you, please.
Yeah, that'll be great. Thanks, AJ. Folks, thanks for joining us. It's been a fun conversation. Please, until next time, stay safe.